Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. Happy Wednesday. I apologize for those of you who saw me live a minute ago. Something went wonky and it didn't work. I couldn't see any comments or anything. So apologies, but I'm back and I'm here. And I'm just going to mute this so that I can see you. All right. Looks like we are live. Great, great, great. Great, great, great. Okay, sorry for the delay, but I think this is a much better setup where I can see you. I would love to know what you guys are experiencing. I don't know if everybody's getting this right this week, but there's a new change to Facebook in terms of how you view your personal profile versus how you view your business page profile. And I actually personally think that I like it. I think it's only been a day or two, but I'd be curious to know what everybody else is noticing, feeling, thinking, seeing. There's a couple of things that I've noticed that are quite different. And ultimately, I think will be better. You can actually now, kind of like Instagram, you can follow other people as a business. Or maybe that was a setting before and I didn't know it, but anyway, my business is finally following two other businesses, apparently. So anyway, I think it's going to be interesting to see what this is all about. If you have any insights, let me know. If you want to share with the group, feel free to put that here or somewhere else. But that's not what we're talking about today. Excuse me as I get comfortable here. Today we're talking about either pivoting in your business, and I'll talk a little more about like how I define that. I hear that word a lot, and everybody I think uses it a little bit differently. But pivoting in your business, or more importantly, and more of what we're going to talk about today is, actually that's not true. What we're also going to talk about today is starting a second business, starting a third business, et cetera, starting more businesses, and what that looks like, and more importantly, what that feels like. I'm going to share my own experience around this, as well as I said in the promotion for this, for today's live, I have had second business energy or third business even energy around me for some time now. I had my first idea for an additional business very, very early on in my entrepreneurial career. I still think it's something that I will create, although I haven't yet. And I think it's just an important, it's something so this is an important topic, and it's not one that I can cover in 45 to 60 minutes. But I just want to start the conversation today. This isn't something that I see a lot of people talking about. And I think that it's just a really important topic. I've helped a lot of clients with their second, third, fourth, whatever businesses. And I think it's a really important topic. I think there's a lot of commonalities I've seen across. I have clients doing lots of different things, but those people often come to me for pivots or big changes, big transitions in their business, where they feel that they want to make a change in their work. And a lot of times that's a change in the work itself. And sometimes that ends up being like not a huge impact to your audience, but a huge impact to you. And then sometimes it's a big fat change, right? Sometimes it's, I don't know, you're moving from being a web designer to being an intuitive. Or like I said, I have lots of clients that have come to me for support in either transitioning from their first to their second business, or transitioning to maintaining their first business and opening a second or a third or whatever, and everything in between. And this is just something that I've been doing a lot of, and I have my own experience with it. And there's so much commonality, and it's funny. I have 3 clients in particular who have been sharing similar experiences for a while now, and lately I keep telling them, oh my gosh, you guys are almost like in very similar phases. Like one will say something to me the same month that another one will say the same thing to me. And it's just I don't know, it's very interesting the timing of some of my clients and their experiences. But again, what I'm noticing more and more and more is that there's so much that we have in common when we're going through this type of experience, or even just when we're pondering it. That's the other thing, is I would be willing to bet most people who are running a business right now, a small business, or if you're creative, or if what you're doing feels heart-centered and meaningful to you, I would be shocked if you didn't also have an idea for another business. I think this is something not as many people are talking about, because maybe, I don't know, if you have this really cool idea, you don't want to tell people because maybe they'll go to it instead, or you don't want to tell people because you're not ready to do it, or, or it's like, yeah, well, but my focus is this business right now. So I don't really want to talk about other businesses, but I do have all these ideas. I know most of you do. And so part of the reason I just simply want to start the conversation today is I know that this is a thing. I know that there are so many of us out there, so many of you out there, and that I'm not alone, and that you are also being like, oh, you know what else would be cool? Oh, you know what else would be great? Oh, and Courtney says she has like 5. Exactly. And like 5, Courtney, at any given moment, right? It's good to see you, my dear. But it's something that I think is so intrinsic to the entrepreneurial journey, if we're really, really honest with ourselves. People who are drawn to entrepreneurship typically are wildly creative, wildly innovative, oftentimes very independent, oftentimes have their brain on multiple things at once. We are creators, right? And so it makes perfect sense that maybe we're not intended, or maybe we're not only here to do one thing, right? Like, I wish I knew the stat. And this actually has little to do with entrepreneurship, but there's a new stat out that talks about like how many careers people have in their lifetime. And like, my dad is retired now, but he was the lawyer for 33 years in the same law firm. He had one career. Well, he delivered the mail for like a year, and then he went to law school. So I don't know let's count that. Okay. So dad had 2 careers, right? Well, I had 2 careers just in my 20s, 2 different kinds of jobs just in my 20s, maybe 3. So that is changing in our society, or just in the environment of people having 9 to 5s. So for those of us who are starting businesses or running businesses who are more in that innovative, creative, like, ooh, that's a cool idea, let's actually do it. We're probably more likely to be that way anyway. And so again, I think that most people have multiple ideas in their head at any given time. And I think to me, that's the beauty and the joy of entrepreneurship and of running a business. And the fact that I'll speak for myself, the fact that I've started this business and I've been successful with this business gives me so much more confidence to even think about things that I might not have had the confidence to do, or to even see possibility where I might not have seen real possibility before. And it's a little bit of a high, right? Or like not an obsession, that's not maybe the right word, but like it can be like this cyclical thought process that keeps driving you and pulling you in, because it is creative, because I think that's what we're here to do, is to keep, creating change and doing different things and innovating and playing around and meeting new people. So, yeah, I guess I just want to start the conversation by saying like, hi, you're normal. And we're all a little bit weirdos, and that's the whole point. So I know I am. So if you are poo-pooing yourself, and I think too, like there's so much, and I even talk about this a lot, there's so much out there in the online space around like being focused and like one thing at a time. And that's absolutely true. And I think a lot of times when I think about that, it's about how we get work done, or like choosing a strategy for your business that is simple, that you can, compound your impact with, and keep building it and adjusting it and tweaking it and refining it to really, really feed and serve your business without like needing to be all over the place and doing 97 different things to create the same result. But that's not what we're talking about here. And I just want to be clear about that, because I do think focus is important. I think that's how we drive towards getting the money and the impact that we want. And giving yourself the space. I talked so much last month in last month's workshop, which by the way is still up in the Facebook group under the featured section, creating spaciousness in your schedule. It'll be up for like maybe another month, and then I'm going to pull it down, package it up, and sell it. So if you guys want to catch it for free, grab it. But we talked so much about like how to create space in your schedule for that creativity, for that innovation, for those brilliant downloads to come in, for yourself to be connected to yourself, right? Or whatever higher power, whatever you believe in, whatever you are down with, for those innovative, creative, like intuitive hits and downloads. We need to have space in our schedules for that. And so, I think at any given time, most people are receiving information for what else they could create, what else they could do. And I see this too in my clients when it comes to like I was just having breakfast with somebody this morning, and we were talking about like lifestyle shifts. And now that COVID is at a different phase, let's say, people who, like me, who weren't traveling as much during COVID are now in a space where they're looking to how do they want to, travel going forward, and building that, into my lifestyle is really important for me. And then how do I manage that with making sure that I'm supporting my clients and all of those things. And so I think it's just I think this is a really important conversation. So most importantly today, I just want to start it, but I do have some things that I want to share that I'm finding people have in common. And so if you're even just thinking about starting a second business and you're only going to do it later, like that's cool. You could still listen to this because I think it will help you. But I'm also opening this. And so if you have a second business, or you're getting ready to start a second business or a third business or whatever, I have some real like solid things to share with you as well. But the other reason that I'm starting this conversation, I think I've said that like 8 times. The other reason is because I think that when we are in a space, I'm getting chills. When we're in a space of possibility, when we're in a space of talking about something, even if you don't have another business idea, don't care to ever start another business, really just want to do what you're already doing right now, like great, awesome, good for you. And I find that when we're in a space of a topic that opens up our minds, then that almost just like being in the energy of today's conversation may open your mind to whatever next level creation you're intended to create, whether that be, just an add-on to your existing business or a new offer. It could be something that like isn't a new business. And I'm not trying to like tell you that you should have something new, but I do think that the energy on the planet right now is really supporting this. I'm hearing a lot of people come up with new ideas. A lot of people are talking about closing their businesses, starting something else, pivoting over, or just running 2 businesses, 3 businesses, doing something bigger and different. There's so much on the energy of the planet right now supporting that. And so I want to make sure that I'm having this conversation, sticking this energy here in this amazing, amazing group. I love you guys so much. And start planting seeds that maybe don't even need to be like watered or touched or become conscious for months or years. But again, I'm always about continuing to expand and grow. And that's what I've started this group up for. And I think that when we are in the energy and in the space of expansion for whatever the topic may be, we benefit from that energy. So I'm bringing you the expansive energy today. Okay, so a couple things. One, I want to talk about if you are pivoting or thinking about pivoting in your business. To me, pivoting is like, I'll use myself. Well, I feel like I maybe have started two businesses. Let's say, okay, let's say this is an example that I like to use. Pivoting can be like you're just changing your niche, or you're changing like the details around who you serve. Like, hey, instead of, okay, I know one for me. I'll give you one for me. So I used to serve, and still do technically, people at all levels of business, whether you were just starting or whether you'd been in business for 15, 20 years. Now I find that I primarily serve people who are not at the very beginning of their business. I do really, really well helping people to scale, helping people to grow their teams, helping people to start second businesses, helping people with sort of that like second or third level or phase, I should say, in business. And so that's something that I have basically I've mostly pivoted from helping mostly starting off entrepreneurs in the beginning to helping people sort of later on in the journey. So that's a pivot. I'm trying to think. I think pivot is really just making a shift in your business where you're either serving different people or doing something a little bit differently. It doesn't have to mean that you are starting an additional business. And then you could be kind of like a weird hybrid. For me, I've been thinking a lot lately about my entrepreneurial journey and how I started out as a hypnotherapist, and that's really what brought me into entrepreneurship. But I do use hypnotherapy. I do use meditate. Actually, I use meditation with my clients, but I don't really sit down and hypnotize my clients anymore. And that was a gradual, organic change. It's not like one day I decided to stop doing hypnotherapy and only coach my clients. It was a gradual shift. But if you go back and look at how I talked about myself in year 1 and 2 of my business versus how I talk about myself now, it's really, really different. I was helping different people. I was helping people with different things. And I was using a different modality. I was using one modality. And now I have many. And so that was either a pivot or a second business without really, starting a second business entity with the IRS, some sort of hybrid in between. So you could be a weirdo like me, and there's lots of weirdos like me. You don't have to have a formal label. So, and some people would just call that a pivot, but so it kind of doesn't matter. What is my point? It sort of doesn't matter like what you're shifting, what you're evolving into. If you're pivoting, generally speaking, within the same business, but you're making a change, I want to say, because I think this comes up a lot, you're allowed to just change your mind. You're allowed to change your mind. This is your thing. This is your life. You get to do whatever you want, and you're allowed to change your mind. And most people, if you really pay attention, most people's businesses do not stay the same year to year. Most people's businesses have a change of some sort over time. And so I want to just offer that to you, that you're encouraged to make changes. I have built a whole group coaching program around it called Evolve, right? That you and your business are intended, I believe, to evolve together. And sometimes that means closing one and opening another. Sometimes that means running 2 businesses, 3 businesses. Sometimes it means sort of all kinds of combinations, changing and shifting. This is about evolving as a soul. I think that one of the reasons I've chosen to work with business owners is because I think that entrepreneurship is such an opportunity to explore yourself as a soul and to grow as a soul. And that it just gives us so many opportunities to look at ourselves, to challenge ourselves, and to grow and expand to whatever our next version of ourselves will be. And so why would your business be any different? really. Your business is a living entity, and it's intended to grow and evolve over time. And I don't want to talk too much about this today, but sometimes that then means that we have to have difficult conversations with clients and people who love the work that we do in the beginning and don't want us to change because they want us to keep doing this, right? I used to, for a short period of time, I used to offer intuitive readings one-on-one with people. And I loved that. That was a really important part of my entrepreneurial journey. It was a really important part of my journey as an intuitive, to understand and to practice and to give to others from this gift, this skill. It's really a skill that I've honed. I believe anybody is intuitive. Anybody can use these gifts. For some people, it just like slaps them in the face. And for others, it has to be cultivated. But that was really, really fun for me and really important way that I served my clients. And then I felt very strongly that it didn't feel organic to do intuitive readings while coaching my clients, because intuitive reading sort of implies you're giving somebody an answer or download, and coaching is really about empowering people to create their own answers within. And for some time, those two really actually did go together, and the guides I was working with were very coachy. And so that sort of worked for me, but ultimately it started to feel like a struggle. It's just organically, slowly and gradually started to be harder and harder for me to deliver intuitive information to my clients while in a coaching session. It just was no longer organic. And so I started moving out of that, but I had to have those conscious conversations with people to say, like, I don't think we're going to do that anymore. I'm getting hits and I'm sharing them with you just as a part of our coaching. But when I'm channeling, it's different. And also because I was channeling from the perspective of giving people an opportunity to ask them a question via me. And again, that's different than my coaching style, which is to help you find the answers within yourself. Not that because I of course provide my own recommendations, my own guidance. My clients know what I'm thinking. I'm very, very honest and transparent with them, and I will push them to look at things differently. So it's not that, but the two just stopped sort of making sense to me together. And so those were sometimes harder conversations for people who just wanted, me to be an intuitive. And I have people I can send them out to, and many intuitives that are amazing if you're looking for one. And again, it's not that I've closed and blocked that, channel off when I work with clients, but it just sort of comes in a different way. And I'm using that tool or that skill in a different way. And so again, it doesn't mean when we pivot, when we change, it doesn't mean, it often means that we have to have some honest conversations and say no to things that we used to say yes to. And that can be hard and difficult. But that's not exactly what today is about. But I do just want to acknowledge that, because I think that's one of the things that holds people back from making the change. It's not easy. It's not easy, but I think that holds people back. But ultimately, I have to believe that in the same way that you started your business with, you had to have had some sort of hope or belief that the right people would come to buy from you this thing that you're offering. The same is going to happen for the next thing that you offer. So, full abundance mindset here. If there's somebody out there that, for my example, that wanted to pay me for intuitive information, there's also somebody out there that wanted to pay me for business and mindset coaching with an intuitive slant, right? So, but I do think, number one, you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to evolve as a soul. Therefore, your business is going to evolve over time. And yeah, it might mean having some difficult conversations, but ultimately, your responsibility. I always think about my business. I've talked about this. I don't think I've talked about this in quite a while. I like to think about my business and your business, our businesses, as having their own energy and being their own entity, kind of like when you have a child, they are of you, but they are not you. This is something that you've created, but it also takes on its own energy. And I kind of like to think about having a healthy responsibility to my business to continue to honor it and build it in a way that continues to serve its evolution. And if I'm not honoring it at its greatest potential, right? So if I use the intuitive skills as an example, if I'm headlining myself as an intuitive, that's pulling me back from being able to offer the business and mindset coaching that I'm actually really, really, really good at. And yes, I'm good at delivering intuitive information, but that's not my like tip-top zone of genius, right? So if you think about it that way, I owe it to my business, so to speak. I have a responsibility to my business to help it grow and evolve to its greatest potential. And if I'm watering down my services, or I'm doing something that somebody wants me to do because I don't want to hurt their feelings, or I want to people please, right? Can you see how that's getting in the way of the evolution? So that's all I'm going to say about boundaries. Let me know if you have questions. If you have had experiences like this, I would love to know. Let me know if your business is pivoting. Let me know if you're thinking about pivoting your business. And let me know if you're starting another business, or if you're in the process of transitioning, or if you're running multiple businesses. Wherever you are, I would love to know. You can put the comments here, or you can also, as always, you can always send me a private message and let me know what's up with your business. But here's one of the things that I want to share. Something that I see so often when people are pivoting and big time. I just had another conversation. I feel like I'm having these conversations on repeat, which is why I wanted to bring this to the live today, which is this idea of like, something's coming. I feel something's coming. I feel something has got to change. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel something's coming, and I have a fear that it's something different. Or maybe you're starting to already have the thing that you know what it is. Maybe it's already come into focus. Maybe you already know what it is. And there's this kind of, I think, very natural tendency to be worried about like, oh my gosh, I created this first thing, right? My hypnotherapy business, for example, or my business now, if I start another business. But I really love coaching. Does that mean that I don't love coaching anymore? Does it mean I don't love coaching as much as I used to? Does it mean that, sorry, there's a lot of traffic today. Does it mean that, am I falling out of love? Like I see this a lot, like in relationships, right? When you hit a different phase in your relationship, and you're not like every moment of every day bowled over with how much you're in love with your partner. And then you're like, is that okay? Like, is that okay? This makes me a little nervous. Are we okay? Yes, I still love the person, but okay, but are we still okay? Right? Same with your business, or with your first business, or with the first iteration of your business. If you're pivoting, there is this very, very strong common theme that I see with so many people. I've seen it in myself multiple times, where there's almost this like worry of, oh God, am I falling out of love with my craft, with my genius? Like, because I don't know about you, but I have said to myself many, many times as I've been running this business, like, there is no plan B. I do not want a plan B. I will never go back to my corporate career. I do not want to do anything else for work. This is my thing. This is what I want to do. And while that is true, like, I guess I just want to offer that can be true, and you can want to do other things too. And just because that is how I feel now doesn't mean that is going to be how I feel in 5 years. And all of that is okay. I do think it's a process to go through when you are pivoting, when you are starting something new. And I do want to talk about a few like very, I guess, practical or like strategic elements of shifting and pivoting. But this mindset, this like emotional roller coaster that you can put yourself on of like worrying that this isn't okay, I just want to really normalize it. I I see this in my clients. I see this in myself. And I talk to people who are running businesses all the time. I have lots of friends and colleagues who I talk to, even if they're not my clients. And so I'm always gathering data from people. And this is a conversation that I've had on repeat for many, many years. So I feel that I've collected the scientific data to be able to tell you, like, this is very normal. And it is all part of the process, you know, of doing work you love. Like, just because you're doing work you love doesn't mean you're only going to do the one thing forever and ever and ever. Amen. Right. So just know that. And what if you don't love it anymore? Isn't that also okay? I think that's part of growing and evolving. Or maybe you don't love it enough to keep doing it. Or maybe you don't love it enough to keep doing it in this way. Or maybe you don't love enough to do it 100% of the time. All can be true. All are good. If you're following your fulfillment, you will find your way. But I do find this, like, almost like people are afraid to talk about that element of, oh my God, what if this means I'm not in love with my work anymore? What if it means, you know, even heaven forbid, like, what if it means I just don't love it as much? I just want to normalize that too, because I think it's such an important part of this conversation. It's such an important part of the process. Okay. And then the other thing, yeah, I kind of already talked about this, but I hear a lot of people, they will ask me, like, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean about me as a business owner? What does this mean about me as an entrepreneur? Like, does this mean I can't stick to something and commit to it? Does this mean, we talked about this, I'm falling out of love with that element of my work? Does this mean something's wrong with me? Does this mean I can't be successful because I got to keep moving and I need variety and I want to be doing multiple things? I hear that so much. I see that. That is so me. I'm actually really proud of myself for sticking with this business as long as I have. I love it. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not going anywhere, but variety is my thing, the thing that helps me thrive. And so I have just found a way to find variety within my coaching containers that brings me joy and lights me up and gives me fulfillment, gives me a space to create. That's where I get my variety. I don't have to go do 97 things at the same time to get that joy. But I really do. I am a card carrying, like, variety lover. And that often in my life has meant that it might on the surface look like I'm not committing because I've moved around a lot. I've had multiple relationships. I had several different iterations of my corporate career before I started this business. And this business is 4 years old, and it's had like 2 different main iterations. So that idea of, like, does it mean I'm not committing, right? What does it mean? This fucking means anything you want it to mean. It just means anything that you want it to mean. And so let's not tell stories. Let's not put ourselves down. Let's not make ourselves wrong about wanting to evolve and expand. That is what we humans are here to do. And I think that we entrepreneurs and creatives are using, those of us that are conscious, those of us that are heart-centered, meaning that you didn't start a business just to make $1, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that you're starting a business with the clear intention to impact the world in a meaningful way, using your gifts and talents, and you want to make $1 or 75 million. So if you're doing that heart-centered work, you're using your business in a good way to further your soul growth, to further your own expansion, and to further the world's evolution, right? Really? Kind of, sort of? Tell me how that resonates. So it makes sense that if that's what's going on with us as humans, that, like, our businesses will need to evolve. And I think, you know, one thing that isn't talked about enough in small businesses and online businesses, because I think even though our environment is changing a lot, It's just a lot easier to adjust and pivot. I don't think we are as dramatically affected by the economy and the like environment that we sit in as much as bigger businesses are. But the businesses, like think about the big companies that have survived over time, that have made it, I don't even want to say they've survived. The big businesses that have thrived over time, they've been able to move and shift and adjust when the environment required them to, right? Like Blockbuster, home video, VHS tapes and DVDs, right? Like, I actually don't know if they're gone, but I don't think they exist anymore. If like they were too slow to get on, I don't think they ever got onto the streaming bandwagon, right? So the market shifted and they couldn't pivot quickly enough. How many, think of the companies that you know, Apple is a great example, that have shifted with and like stayed with the curve of our evolution as a world, and they stayed relevant. But that's required evolving. It's required changes. It's required, transition. And so I think it's very easy for those of us who are doing heart-centered work to be like, I'm a therapist. I'm always a therapist. I have to be a therapist. I'm good at being a therapist. I'm always going to be a therapist. And you might feel that way right now, but you may one day not. And that's also okay. That's why if you've heard me, if you've been in my space for very long, you've heard me say like over and over and over again, run your business on your own damn terms. I think that's the best way to get you out into the world. You have to do it on your own terms. And that's what pivoting really honors, I think. Okay, there's one more common theme that I found, and then I have time. And then I want to share a couple of different models of what I'm seeing people doing, because I just want to normalize some of that too. Yeah, so the other commonality I've noticed in my clients is I don't want to share any, and I'm very mindful of, I'm not sharing anything that my clients are experiencing directly, because that's their private information. But I can share this anonymously, and one of my clients has shared this publicly, but I think it's important to say that if you are, so in this example, I'm going to be very mindful. In this example, I'm talking about when you are closing something and opening something else, or closing something and pivoting to something else. I've had 2 clients in the last 6 months close a business for the purpose of doing something different. Both of them closed their business in large part for many reasons, but one of the primary reasons was they were successful. They made money. In many ways, they were too busy. But from the perspective of being a business owner, from the perspective of doing work you love, they realized they wanted to do something a little different. And that's probably the only way I can speak in generalizations, because they're both in very different industries doing very different things. But both closed businesses. And I have 2 others that are moving from one to another. Both closed businesses that were successful. And I really want to normalize this concept of like, you can close a business that's successful. That's breaking the rules, right? That's breaking the rules. But if you want it, you're also just allowed to do something else. Okay, that was successful. I did that. We did what we set out to do. Awesome. I don't want to do it like that anymore. I want to do this other thing, or I want to do that in a slightly different way. So the best way to do that is to close it and reopen something else. And something that is very common experience that I have seen across the board is when that announcement became public, that business number 1 was closing, or closing in some form, was the number of people saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. COVID has hit everybody really hard, or whatever. And the funny way that people want to say, like, no, this is a celebration. Like, we did it. We did the business. We started the business. We ran the business. We grew the business. We were successful. We accomplished what we were here to do. And now we just want to go do something else, right? Have you ever had a relationship end, whether it was a divorce or just a romantic relationship breakup, where, yes, you might have sat, and of course, and for sure, this is not the last conversation we're going to have about closing, or about closing a business, because for sure there's grief there. For sure there's grief if you're ending a relationship. For sure there are emotions there. But have you ever had a relationship that ended where you just felt like, you know what, that was absolutely the right relationship for me at that phase in my life, and thank you so much, and that was a success, but it is not the right person to see me into my next chapter, or this, we don't resonate with each other in our next chapters, and so it's time for us to move on. Like, that was a success. I have several relationships that I would put in that category, and yet people are, oh no, you broke up, right? Like, I think we want to see breakups and divorces and closing businesses as bad things, and so often they're just the closing of a chapter, and that chapter could have been successful, whatever success means to you, and it's also just time to do something else, or it's time to do a new version of something, or whatever it is. And so I want to just honor this, like, and I think people even have shame around like closing a business or ending a type of service that you provide. I mean, it doesn't have to be so dramatic, right? It can be, I see people hiding their shame around, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to honestly, like, do what I really truly want to do. Like, should I, is it beggars can't be choosers, or is it just, I should be grateful, and so I should just fucking run this business forever, even though it's not lighting me up in the same way that it used to, or it's not fulfilling me all the way anymore because I did it and it's checked off and I just want to go do this other thing. Like, there is a weird shame that comes in with success. There is a weird shame that comes in when we're making a big change, and people want to judge us for it, or we think people want to judge us for it, or we think that we need to explain to other people why we're like, almost like why we're allowed to do this big thing after doing another big thing, like just starting a business, which is a big thing. And like, who do you think you are that you can start a second business or a third business, or that you can just shut this down and start something else? Like, aren't you afraid of how you're going to feed your family? Right? Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the hearts. And that's the other piece. And this is what I think a lot of my clients come to me for, whether they're aware of it or not, is like, there's usually something where they're coming to me saying in some form or fashion, like, I want to do this big thing, and I want some support in doing this big thing, because this is a big thing for me. This is a big thing, but I also want to know that I can do it. I also know that I can do it, but I know that I want to do it in a space where I'm supported in somebody who also either sees me in my big thing or even sees it bigger. I think a lot of times that's my job, is to even see bigger than my clients can in terms of what's possible and how things could be. Because not all of us not all of the people in our lives know how to think as big as we do. Not all of the people in our lives understand what it is that we're doing. And so for my dear friends, for those of you who have closed businesses and started new ones, like, there is a weird shame. I don't want to put that on you, but I see a lot of people talk about or talk around this idea that I think is this feeling that I think is truly shame bubbling up around, like, am I really allowed to just have what I want? Am I really allowed to do a bigger thing after doing one big thing? Like, success is hard to explain to people who, when you're successful, it's hard to explain it to other people sometimes. And I think there's a weird like shame thing that comes in there of like feeling like we have to apologize for being good at what we did, and that we're just going to go off and do the next thing now. I've been told several times wow, you live on an island and you run your business online and you can travel whenever you want. Must be nice. And yeah, it is nice, but I also created it on purpose. You too can do that if that's what you want. I just created the big thing, right? So I really, really, really just want to support any version of that that's playing out for you right now, or that you've seen in your business and seen in your entrepreneurial journey, that this concept of doing the big thing, especially doing a big thing after already doing one big thing, it can mess with you. And I think what I want to just say about that is, if that's something that you're dealing with, I see you. I see you, and you're not alone, and you're not the only one. Lots and lots and lots of people are experiencing that. And it does not mean that you can't go do the big things. Go do the big thing. And then come back in and tell us all about it. Okay, the other thing I want to offer is, for those of you who are looking at expanding your business into a second business, looking at whether you, whatever it is that you're doing, I want to just offer that, just like anything, you can create your business on your own damn terms, or your businesses on your own damn terms. There's lots of ways to do it. And I think a lot of people think they have to close one down and open up another. And that might be your choice, but there's lots of sort of hybrid-y in between options. And I just want to throw out a few and get your brain thinking. And these are certainly not all of the options, but I just want to get your brain thinking about how creatively you could put this together. I also want to say this to those of you who are thinking that your second or your third business is years away, and that may be true, but sometimes we can start it sooner than we think, especially if you are holding back and starting something because you don't think you're ready, or you don't think you have the money, or you don't think you have the time. There's ways to baby step into that. It's not all or nothing. And I really, really, really want to challenge those of you who are sitting in an all or nothing space, that are saying, like, that would be so fun. Like, wouldn't that be nice? But I'm not ready yet. And you may not be ready. That may be true. And you may also be ready to slowly get started slowly. So there's a couple of little options that I want to talk about. First off, if you have not watched the, actually, let me do a quick, this is relevant. So we've been doing free workshops here in the group. In May, I did one called Aligned Pricing. If you are struggling with your pricing, or even if you just want to scale, revisiting your pricing is one easy way to go to get an impact shift quickly and an income shift quickly. So go check that out. It's in the Facebook group under the featured section, Aligned Pricing. June was just a couple of weeks ago, and it was called Creating Spaciousness in Your Schedule. This month is about team. It's called Conscious Leadership, Hiring and Letting Go. This is something that people have been asking me to do for quite a while. So I'm going to finally talk about team stuff, particularly hiring and letting go, but there's a lot of mindset that goes around that. So don't miss it. That's July 26th to the 28th. It's always the last week of the month. All of these are going to be available for a short period of time for free, and then I'm going to package them up and sell them. So catch them for free, because I'm giving them to you guys for free before they become a price, before they become something I'm selling at a price. But the reason I'm saying that is the scheduling one in particular, but all of these are relevant for scaling, for strategic scaling. And if you are looking at running two businesses at once, you better believe you're going to need your aligned pricing. You better believe you're going to need to create more space in your schedule so that you can do more with the same amount of time. Run two businesses. It is absolutely possible to run two businesses at once. I have worked with many clients to do that. And one of the biggest things that we've done is we've gone into their schedule and looked at their teams and made really clear, strategic, intentional decisions and changes that support them in running two businesses, getting the right percentage of time in each, getting the right team on board for one or two or both, That does require some real clear strategy and some clear decisions around how you're going to do that, and also how you're going to manage your time. And so the creating spaciousness in your schedule and the team piece for this month, and of course the pricing, they're all going to support you. So if that's the space that you're in, please go get that free resource while it's still free. I'm really, really big on providing that value to you guys first. So go catch that. But again, so if we're talking about models, first things first is you've got to create a space in your schedule to be able to do more. So go catch that one in particular. But a lot of times what I talk to my clients, I think one of the first decisions you have to make when you are looking at pivoting, running two businesses is how do I want to spend my time? What percentage of my time feels like a good sweet spot? And you may not know at first. We talked in the workshop, and I've talked many, many times about this idea of like what percentage, for example, for me, what percentage of time I wanted to spend on one-on-one coaching versus my group coaching. And that I've played around with that over the years. And that my desire and what I'm lit up by changes. So like it used to be, I wanted to work with more groups than individuals. Now I work with all individuals, and I keep waiting until I'm inspired to bring my groups back. And so playing around with the percentage of time on business one versus business two is really important to really start seeing it. Like you can't be in both places at once. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to try to split your time 50-50? Or do you want to bring in somebody to help run business number one so that you can spend more time in growing business number two? What is that going to look like for you? So be thinking about percentage of time. It does not need to be 50-50. It does not need to be 0 to 100. That's kind of all or nothing thinking. Those are the two models that most people think they have to do. But you can do whatever the F you want. You can do 25% of your time on your new business and 75% on your existing business. There's all kinds of things you can do. So I want to offer this opportunity that you can get creative with your time. Think about your percentage of time. And that percentage of time might be different. You may say, you know what? I'm going to spend a lot more time on the new business for a little while to get it up and running. And then I want to sort of, I don't know, split my time 50-50. So you can think about it that way. Definitely be thinking about your team. There's something that you're going to, assuming you have a full-time job right now with your existing business, you're going to need some team member support, or you're never going to sleep. And I'm never going to recommend burning people out. So this is about working the same amount and finding a way to do more. So team is going to be really, really important. Yeah. And okay, I have two other things I want to share. One is I see, so models, I see some people doing, I'm going to keep my business number one and I'm going to add business number two. I think that's the hardest model to do. No, I'm sorry. Let me say that differently. Scratch that. Trying to do number one as is and add number two is the hardest because it's just going to create burnout. It's not sustainable for very long. So I'm just going to tell you that right now. If you're not going to change number one at all and you're going to add number two, you're going to wear yourself out quickly. So find a way that's sustainable for you if you're going to add a second business. I absolutely think it's possible to run two businesses, but I think it's really important to be very, I don't usually say this, but be very conservative with the way that you think you can spend your time, because things are going to probably in the new business especially take longer than you think they will. And time in a new space oftentimes requires more energy. So you may not even be able to judge that's why I say play around with it, experiment with it, because you may not be able to judge your time effectively, because when you're doing something new, it requires even more energy. I also see people going from business number one to business number two. I think that happens a lot. I would argue that if you're feeling that you want to shut down business number one, then that's all you. I fully support that. But if you don't want to shut business number one down, but you think you have to in order to do business number two, I want to encourage you to be thinking more creatively about that, because I do think and have seen, and I know that it is very possible to do more than one thing. And you just may need to make some tweaks. Hop on a free call with me if you want some thoughts and questions, if you have questions about that. And again, you can do 1 and 2 or even 3, but also shifting your time percentage like we talked about. So I see those. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that I see a lot of people taking a pause. And I really, really, really want to encourage this and normalize this. You will know when it's right. I just want to offer that there is something really normal and natural and intrinsic in us when we are making a change. Like, have you ever seen somebody like go through a big life change or a big business change and then like go take a big vacation? It's really, there's a lot to be said for that. And so even it could just be a 2-week vacation that is your pause. I have 3 clients taking some version of a pause this summer, mainly related to the fact that they just did a bunch of big stuff and they needed to take a break in order to keep going. And because they've created the life that they want and they've given themselves the grace and space to do summers differently. And I actually 5 clients I can think of right now that are doing their summers differently than the rest of the year, by design, to support their life, and which also supports your business. But you can create whatever you want. That's my jam. Create whatever you want. If you want to start a second business, third business, I can help you figure out how to do that. But this idea of taking a pause, oftentimes will give you an opportunity to get those intuitive downloads, but also to just give your brain the space that it needs to be able to go and do the next big thing. It's really, really, really important. In the same way that we need to sleep at night, we need to take breaks. Please take some time off over the summer. Please take some time off whenever it's appropriate for you in your business. But taking that pause somewhere in your pivoting process, I find to be really, really, really important. And I find if you're feeling stuck, that's a really good time to take a pause, because most likely you're following so much intuitive hits and so much of your creativity, that as amazing and high energy as that is, and as much as I think it sort of like fosters continued momentum, I think that we also can keep that going when we take a pause. Does that make sense? That naturally our brains want to be in that space, and then they want to take a rest, and then they want to be in that space, and then they want to take a rest. And so I find that taking a pause, whether that's a 1-week vacation, taking the summer off, whatever in between, doing some sort of pausing. I had one client close a business and she's taking a pause before opening up the next one. It's really important to give yourself the space. Also, especially if you're closing something, to grieve and to close down with intention and to close down with love and respect and honor of what you created and the clients and customers that you supported and served in that first business or whatever the previous business was that you're closing down. That requires a lot of intention. And so I want to just really offer a lot of support in the pause, in the break, in the vacay, and just not, going full speed ahead. I feel like I want to talk about this really quietly because our brains need that in order to pivot. And I want to share one final thing, which is this metaphor has served me over and over and over again in my life. And I want to share, when I was a little kid, I went to a sailing, like a summer camp, sailing camp. And we learned how to sail sunfishes, and they're just, very basic, simple boats. If it's 1, 2, I guess maybe 3 people, depending on how big they are. Very, very simple boat. But what happens is you learn that when you sail, at least when you sail the little boats, I've never sailed a big one, you sail kind of at a diagonal based on the wind pattern. You sail kind of at a if I want to go from here to you, I'm not going to actually go in a straight line. I'm going to go in a diagonal pattern generally towards you, but I'm going to be, I think it's called tacking. I'm going to be shifting because I have to track with the wind. Okay. And one of the things that happens when you do this is you look like you're not going directly forward. First of all, you're kind of going at an angle. And then in order to turn the boat to the next angle, it actually has to stop. And you have to, thank you for the hearts, you also have to go like duck under the boom because the sail's it has to like lose the wind. The sail basically has to lose the wind, right? Because you don't want to keep going in that direction anymore. So you have to lose the wind, duck, shift the sail to the other side of the boat, wait for it to pick up the wind, and then you go forward in the next direction. And it's this weird, like you're going, and everything slows down. And sometimes you don't all the way stop, but I mean, it's just like a car. You pretty much have to almost stop in order to make like a 90-degree turn. This is no different. And so I just want to offer this idea, this metaphor for you. If you're pivoting, if you're opening new business, if you're closing and opening, whatever sort of scenario that you're in, that idea of a pause or like taking a moment to catch the wind in the next direction does take a moment. It takes a moment to turn the boat. And so give yourself the grace and space. We want things to be instant gratification. We want things to come quickly. And that's not to say that things can't happen quickly. I see lots of like fast success in business in my clients. And so it's not that and in my own business, it's not that it can't come quickly, but we have a weird concept of time and expectation of what's quick. And that if you set out to do something today, why isn't it here tomorrow? And I think this is starting new businesses and giving your brain space to create whatever's next for you and your next evolution is really, really important. And that pivot, that turn, that opportunity to pause, whatever that pause looks like, even if you're just going really, really, really slowly, because you're actually not meant to always go in that direction. You are intended to turn which you're still going forward, right? So there's so much in that metaphor. I could go on and on and on and on. I've shared this with my clients for many, many different reasons because I just think it's so beautiful. You're still moving forward in that same direction, but it does require a pause. Otherwise, like you're going to flip the boat if you're trying to catch the wind in two different directions, right? So okay, I'll stop with my sailing metaphor. Let me know how that resonates with you. I'm going to put my link here in the comments. If you are starting a second business, thinking of starting a second business or a third business, or trying to figure out how to balance yourself between those, or if you're anywhere in between, even just pivoting your existing business, this is one of my like magical things to do. It's something that just naturally started coming to me early in 2021. And I just continue to attract people who are doing the big thing, but also making these changes. And it really is an important time in business to get support. And that's something that I really love to do. So if you want to do a big thing and you want some support, or even if you just want to hop on a call and see like what working together might look like, I will put my link here in the comments. I do have 2 slots open right now. I don't know if I'm going to open anymore. I'm playing around with my own schedule. So it's 2 slots right now. And I am offering 10% off for the first month. You can work with me for 1 month or 5 months. Either way, your first month is 10% off. So if you want to hop into those 2 slots, hop on a quick call with me. Let's see if it's a good fit for you. And I would love, love, love to support you in your pivot. Let me know how this resonated. Join me at the end of the month for conscious leadership. It's going to be big. Let me know too. The other thing I wanted to share is I'm creating space in that workshop for lots of questions. So come live, drop your questions in, or send me a PM now, DM, send me a private message now, and let me know what questions you have around hiring. letting people go, mindset around team, because I will build that into the workshop if you have questions. So I've already got a pretty clear structure of how it's going to go. I've already got everything lined up, but I do have space for your questions. So if you want to send me those questions now, I'll make sure to incorporate that into the workshop. So, all right, my friends, happy Wednesday. Have a lovely, lovely week. And I'll be back next week with another topic.